Well, alrighty. Make sure we're live here. Let's make sure this is all going according to plan. Let's see. All right. Says we're live. I see me. Think we're good to go, team. Here goes nothing. Whew. Ladies and gentlemen, uh, wonderful people of all kinds, welcome. This is another fantastic Friday. What a week it's been. It's been a bit of a crazy week. Work was real busy for a change. There's crazy shit going on in the news constantly. Um, man. Yeah, but here we are. We made it. We are live and direct from the hobby bunker, and we're gonna be doing some stuff today. We're gonna be doing some stuff, folks. So first of all, some introductions are in order. For those that don't know me, I'm Wes. Um, and we're going to be here for the next couple of hours. I do this every Friday, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time for, those that are keeping track. Um, and we're going to be doing a little hobby stuff today. Wow. I don't even know how long that's been going on, guys. I just realized that when I restarted my computer, it did not turn my mic back on. So I've been sitting here talking. Oh, goodness gracious me. How long have I been sitting here talking with no mic on? Boy, oh boy, folks. It really has been a day. Nothing seems to want to go right. Oh. Anywho, you know what? I could start all from the top and try and hit all the same notes I hit going into this. Boy, this computer. Sometimes I just want to put it on the roof and just forget about it. Anywho, all right. We're here. We're live. The mic is working. I can't believe it's been going for almost 15, 20 minutes now with next to nothing. So, all right. Whew. Speed bumps. Speed bumps. Anyway, all right. Nutshell, it's been a week. Happy Juneteenth. Happy Midsummer. Happy Father's Day. I got a sweet mug and some mead that I love. Strawberry mead from Crave Mead in Blackstone, Mass. They make excellent mead. If you're anywhere nearby, you should pick some up and drink it. It's delightful. And I think that's like the Cliff Notes version of everything I just went over in the last 10 minutes. Boy. All right. You know what? Let's forget all of that happened. And we're going to go down to the desk. We're going to get some stuff done. We're going to have some fun. So sound off in the comments. If you can hear me okay. Make sure that I'm not still screwing everything up. If video looks okay, if sound is okay, you know, all that jazz. Oof. Oh, the hiccups tonight, folks. The hiccups tonight. All right. That's enough. No more dwelling. Moving on. Gonna get going on the desk. All right. Gotta find a better place to put this mug. I'm super. I know I've mentioned it a couple of times, but I'm super excited with this mug. It is a phenomenal Father's Day gift. All right. So we have here, as I said at the top of the show, that probably got cut off. So we're working on this guy. He is the Wight King from Games Workshop. He has been a part of their range for a while. And I've had this model for, I don't know, probably a couple of years now. It's just kind of sitting around, and I'm noticing my camera's all sort of wonky here. You know, I go through the effort of fixing this stuff up before the show, and then something like a computer crash, and everything gets a little messed up. So anyway, like I said, I've had this guy for a while. I threw some rough paint on him just to kind of get an idea of what I wanted to do with him, like maybe 6-8 months ago, and he's been sitting unfinished in my bin ever since. And I pulled him out. I think maybe it was yesterday. I pulled him out and I started putting a couple of fresh coats of paint on there, just trying to like neaten things up, get a little bit closer to where I actually wanted him to be. So yeah, we've been working on this guy a little bit. The bone skeleton, the skull and his little skeleton fingies are all done. I just have to put the little glowing effects in his eyes at some point towards the tail end of this. But I'm going to be focusing mostly on his armor, his cloak, all of his little doodads that he's got hanging around on him. Just some, you know, some fun little details here and there, trying to get it all situated. There's a few things on him that I'm going to be changing versus what you see now, but this is kind of the rough idea, at least. I'm going to bring this back up so I can see. What up, Scotty? What's up, man? Oh man, playing and streaming Pathfinder Friday nights. That is awesome. Are you DMing these Pathfinder games, or are you a player in them? Thanks, bro. I'm glad you like it. I've been hard at work with this, trying to get everything set up in a way I like. I've got a few different screens or scenes to flip between, you know, as time calls for it. But this is the main event, as it were. So, you're DMing. Trust me, I know many DMs and the plight thereof, so I understand. All right, so we're gonna kick this off. This is one of those steps that I probably should have done like last night before going to bed, just to like have it done, because this is, you know, one of those kind of time-consuming things. But we're gonna throw a wash. I basically, so the silver armor, the purple of his cloak, and his I don't know how well you guys can see it, but let me get a little brush to point with here. So the underneath of his robe, underneath the chainmail, let me see if I can swing him around so you can, oh, that's a little better. So underneath his chainmail, he's got like a purple robe, and then he's got obviously his big purple cloak here, and the little bit of his cowl that's showing here, also purple. So that, all of the silver is all getting a wash in black, and then the silver is getting another wash in brown to sort of make it look aged and rusty a little, and just to kind of add some fun weathering to it. So it's getting basically an all-over black wash, and this is something, like I said, that I probably should have done off camera as like preparation for this, but I got home from work and my wife had to go out and run some errands and do a bunch of stuff, including going out and picking up several of my Father's Day gifts and stuff. So I was on daddy duty for most of the afternoon, and it did not afford me much time as my daughter refused to nap. So, you know, dad stuff. Yeah, so here we are. So I'm gonna get the wash on this guy, adding a little bit of flow aid to my rinse water. It's something I usually do. I just changed out the rinse water before the show here, so forgot to add that, and it just makes it so that every time I rinse my brush, it gets a little hint of flow aid on it, and just kind of helps make the paints all flow a little smoother off the brush. At least that's sort of the idea. All right, so we're going to shake up our wash. We're going to pop her open. We're going to get things going. Yeah, I hear duct tape works for some. All right, so we're going for just like a thin all-over application of this. We don't want it pooling anywhere, really. Honestly, it's just to kind of like tone down, dull down, and darken up the purple. You know, sit in the recesses a little bit without like I said, we don't want it being too heavy, but we do want to sort of darken things down. If for no other reason, then it'll make our highlights pop a little bit more when they go on. Which is what I'm hoping to get to sort of in a later later stages of tonight's show. So we're just, for now, slapping this all over everything, but paying attention and trying not to get it on to his bone, so onto his face or hands, basically. So those are going to be like the initial, sort of the initial places of focus for the eye. Is hopefully they will be drawn to the face and hands, as those will be the brightest bits of the model, which faces and hands, it's usually a good place to try and draw the eye to, because there's usually interesting stuff happening there. So just kind of slopping this on. Like I said, we don't want it super pooling anywhere, so we're trying to be conscious to kind of go back over, and if we see it pooling, just to kind of like wick it up with the brush. And yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with this right now. Just making sure everything is washed. How's your week been there, Scotty? I haven't talked to you in a while. Alright, this is going on nice and easy. I think we've got just about all the coverage we're going to need from it. Now, I haven't done the gold yet. This is still the old version of the gold. I've since gotten a newer gold paint, which I like better, and is more sort of on brand for the Army here. So when the time comes, after this dries up a little bit, I will I'll switch over and do that. But I wanted to I don't know, wait on that, because I do like the I do want the gold to pop a little bit more, so I don't want it to get sort of like lost. I figure if we put that on towards the end, and it's not going to get any washes on it, it's not going to get, you know, basically anything I don't want it on. So I think I'm still kind of trying to figure out exactly which bits I want to hit with it. The crown is sort of the obvious choice, and he's got a couple of little brooches and pins, and then the crossguard and the pommel on the sword here, again, are sort of the obvious points for that. Alright. I think that's pretty much done. Now, if only I had a hairdryer on hand, we could probably zap this with a hairdryer and be done in no time. But alas, we do not. All right. Well, I'm sorry to hear there's been more bad news. Let's put it that way. And yeah, it has been a week. I feel like it's been a week for a lot of people. This year just kind of keeps on hitting. All right. All right, so that purple or the black wash on there. Yeah, family's still healthy. We're doing all right. We're surviving. My the state my wife and I both work in, Massachusetts, is sort of opening everything back up, or starting to. I've been working the whole time, and my wife is, I think she's going back, she said in July or something like that. But essentially, like, so she's an esthetician, which, if you're not familiar with what an esthetician does, it's mostly like skincare, and you know, makeup and stuff like that, but predominantly skincare. So she gives like facials and does all kinds of fun stuff. She loves it, and it's super interesting, and she's really, really good at it. But she obviously, you know, giving people facials and working on their skin and, you know, doing all like waxing and stuff like that. Like, it's kind of hard to, you know, wax somebody's upper lip when they're wearing a mask, you know? So it's been basically, she, while technically speaking, she will be able to go back to work and reopen like her stuff like soonish, I think, technically speaking, but she won't be able to perform, like, you know, the vast majority of her services because of all of the new like regulations and whatnot. So she's basically, while on one hand the state is saying yes, it's okay for you to go back, they're also saying you still can't do your job. So she's like, well, then I'm just not going back, because, like, you know, she works on commission, you know what I mean? Like, if she can't do her services, well, then she doesn't get paid. So, you know, it's kind of a problem. So she'll be out for a little bit more, till probably, like I said, early July, give or take. But we're doing okay as a whole. She does do microblading. Yes. She does microblading. She actually just got licensed right before this whole COVID thing happened. She got licensed and cleared to do permanent makeup. So she does like tattooed eyebrows, like, you know, for anybody that's interested. And I think she's I want to say she knows like 2 different styles of how to do it. Like, there's a bunch of different techniques for it that she's told me about it, and I have tried to internalize it, but it's like it's above my recollection right now. But yeah, so she's doing that. She's doing, like I said, the microblading, all kinds of stuff, microdermabrasion. Most of this is just like terms I've heard her throw around, and I'll be honest, I probably don't know what they mean, but you know, it sounds impressive to me, so I assume it sounds impressive to everyone else. Yeah, my wife got she got her eyebrows done by, I think, I can't remember now if it was the woman who taught her or if it was like the first place she went to work with that, but either way, she's done a bunch of like people that, you know, it's people that she knows, she's worked on, and she's gotten like a bunch of clients that have come to her now that, like, she shows me like the before and after work of it, and it's just like pretty crazy. You know, like people will come that like maybe they got like a, I don't know, some weird scar in their eyebrow, or you know, one of their eyebrows just doesn't grow in for whatever reason, and she'll basically like, you know, map out where the eyebrow is supposed to be and get it like all perfectly symmetrical, and then like bam, it looks like an eyebrow when it's done, which is like, I've seen some pretty bad like eyebrows in my day where it's just like this horrible butcher job and it just doesn't look like an eyebrow. It looks like someone drew it on with a Sharpie or something like that. And fortunately that is not my wife's work. So yeah, she's real good. All right. While we were waiting for the wash to dry on this Wight King, I had these Grimghast Reapers. If I can figure out this camera and the angle. There we go. I had a batch of 6 of these that I was working on, I don't know, last week maybe, I think. They're pretty much done except for the bases at this point. So I put the texture paste on, and then that was where I kind of finished with them. So I threw a separate wash on their bases. Now that's going to dry, and then I'll have to finish their bases at some point. But we're going to check on the main event here. You can see how that black wash is like super darkened down that cloak, like, and I didn't even go like crazy heavy with it in theory. Like I just did like a thin coat, and fortunately it didn't like super pool anywhere. It's nice and even, so I think it turned out pretty good. Still wet in a couple of spots, so we're gonna let it chill. You know what else I'm gonna do? I just noticed that there's a little bit of bone poking out of his elbow, and I painted it bone, but then never actually like painted it the rest of the way. So we're going to take a little bit of our sepia wash here, and we're just going to dab that onto the bone. That'll turn that a nice bone color as opposed to just kind of white. And then I'll go back in with some lighter highlights once that's done, and we'll just call it a day. All right. Yeah, dude, these things they're really cool, really cool models. Yeah, you know what I'm gonna have to do at some point, and I don't know why I haven't done this. Maybe it's because like I don't have enough stuff finished. But this army in particular, the thing that the Grimghast Reapers are for. The Night Haunt is the name of the army, and it's basically an entire army of ghosts. I'll grab... Give me 1 second, and I'll grab them, and I'll show some off on camera here. And let's see. Get over to it. I'm ripping my headphones out of my computer. All right. So basically, like I said, the entire army is like a spectral, like ghost army. We're gonna put this that it won't be super in the way. Yeah. All right. So this is one of the heroes. I very much enjoy him. He is the Knight of Shrouds on Steed. So yeah, this is the Spectral Steed and the Knight of Shrouds. So he's just like a cool ghosty boy riding on a ghosty horse. And I painted him up a while ago. I basically batch painted the entire army because, like I said, they're all ghosts, and they're all pretty much like the way I painted them. They're all pretty much just kind of one color. So I still haven't gone in. Most of these guys I haven't gone in and like actually highlighted them. So like the army itself isn't technically done, but it's like it's done. You know, like it's not my highest quality paint job, but it is definitely like tabletop ready. And so let's see, what else do we have here? So some of the other heroes, there's this guy here. Pop him out. He's one of the cooler looking ones in my opinion. And this is the, where is it? There it is. The Lord Executioner. So he's got a bunch of ghostly heads that fly around him doing stuff, and then he just chops people's heads off. So yeah, he's cool. Let's see here. So these are not heroes. These are just sort of some of the rank and file guys. These are the Mirmorn Banshees, and they're just like a bunch of banshees, like, and they fly around doing they eat spells. That's like their thing in game. So when somebody casts a spell, they can try and eat it, and if they do, they get more powerful. I don't know, what else do we have here? This little dude, I forget what the hell he's. Oh geez. Oh, now he's on the floor. Oh, my butterfingers. Where'd you go? There you are. Come here. Alright, let's try that again. I believe this is the Spirit Torment, is what this guy is called. He's basically like a jailer, and he traps the souls of the dying and brings back models into the unit. So that's pretty cool. And then the actual sort of like rank and file, so like they're called like battle line. So that's these guys, the Grimghast Reapers. They are battle line in the army. And then the other ones are a couple of them so you can get an idea. These little guys here. The chain rasp horde. So I've got 20 of these guys painted up, and then I've got another 10 in the garage waiting to be primed, and then I still have to order 10 more until I have 40, which is, for me, I'm going to be like my goal is to get two squads of 20, and so we're going to kind of go there. Rick, what's up, dude? I haven't seen you in ages. How are you doing? You like the setup, huh? But yeah, Scotty, I'll have to once I get around to having a little bit of free time, which actually, now that I think about it, this week coming up, Monday and or Tuesday, I should have some free time after work. And so I've been meaning for a while to set up my gaming table and then like actually, do like a scenic terrain setup kind of thing, and then do some like photo op stuff with my armies. So I'm going to get my Night Haunt army, my Legions of Nagash army, and get them all together on the table. And so all of my undead will be massed together, and I will just take some photos and post them up on like Instagram. So they'll make their way to Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. Which, by the way, I assume you guys can see it. I've never tried to do this before today, but there's a pinned comment up here that should have links, like active links to all of my socials in there. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, Twitter, you can go ahead and click those, and that'll take you there, and you can just go ahead and click follow there. There's also one to my YouTube channel. So again, if you're not already subscribed there, click the link, follow it over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, the little bell icon to get notified whenever I post new stuff. You know, the usual YouTube spiel. Right now it's mostly the VODs of the stream that get posted up there. If you enjoy them, there's 10 other ones that are up there right now, and new ones posted up weekly. So, and eventually I'll be getting into, I plan to do some Warhammer battle reports, narrative focused battle reports. So it's going to be like kind of like a D&D or like Pathfinder campaign, but with like in Warhammer, using armies and stuff like that. So like the characters will be your army and your faction, essentially, is sort of like the loose way of looking at it. And it'll be like the whole idea that I'm going for is I'm fleshing out Shyish, the Realm of Death. And so I'm going to be actually, you know what? Why don't we do, since I'm just flapping my gums right now and not actually painting, why don't we do this? So yeah, so it's going to be basically fleshing out an area in Shyish, the Realm of Death. And we're going to be focusing on armies that all come from the Realm of Death in some area. And then it's going to be myself and at least 2 others, maybe 3 in this whole thing. And I have a bunch of other armies other than the one I'm going to be playing. So I'll be sort of taking on the role of like the DM in a sense, and coming up with scenarios for people to play, and then supplying like NPC armies as well as like having, you know, sort of my own army. So it should be fun is the short answer, or the short, I don't know, whatever the hell you want to call it, like the caption, whatever. Guys, my brain, I swear, it's not all there today. You know, it will help, more alcohol. Anyway, so yeah, so that's coming, and then I'm also going to be doing a series of campaign diaries for D&D campaigns. So I'm in the middle of a campaign right now. It's been running for like the better part of 3 years, and once that campaign ends, I don't know. I mean, I'm not privy to this information because I'm not DMing. I'm just a player in this one. But to me, at least, it feels like it's sort of reaching a climax. I guess we'll see how long it goes on after this. At the very least, this particular story arc is coming to a head. So, but once the campaign is over and a new campaign starts, I will then be doing a campaign diary to go along with it. So after every session, I'll be sitting down and quite possibly in character. I haven't like 100% decided if I'm going to work it that way, but that's kind of where my instinct is telling me to go. But I'll be doing like a, you know, basically like a vlog style, just talk to the camera kind of, you know, Dear Diary kind of thing, and basically walk through the events of that particular session from that week. So that's the game plan. Those should be coming at some point. So, like I said, slap a subscribe on that YouTube channel, and you'll catch them when they come out. So, how's everybody? I know I've touched base with Scotty here in the chat, but how's everybody else doing? Everyone having a decent week? Looking forward to anything on the weekends? I'm gonna give this Wight King's looking pretty good here. Think we're ready for the next layer of wash. So we're just gonna switch back down to the cam here. I'm gonna grab our big brush again, because this is not exactly fine detail work. So now we're going to be using a dark brown wash, and this is going essentially all over the armor. So if it's silver, it's going to be tarnished. And realistically, I'm probably going to throw some on the fur on his back too, on his shoulders here, because, you know, it looks like it should be, I don't know, looks like it should be brown. I don't really have anything more concrete to say about it than that. We're gonna Apparently struggled to keep this in frame today. That seems to be a common struggle for me. And we're just slapping this brown all up and over this silver. Shield. And the front of the shield. Shoulder. All in between. All right. So bracer and his sword blade. All the fun stuff. I'm way off again. Straight into the pot. Wipe some off. If I get a little bit of brown on the purple, I'm not like super worried about it. We're just trying to do a pretty decent job of coating the silver. The way I see it is he's a gnarly skeleton that clawed his way out of some tomb somewhere. His robes are certainly not going to be clean and pristine, so they get a little extra brown on them. Just a little bit of extra dirt, a little extra grime. In fact, maybe we'll come and we'll just kind of stipple some onto the bottom of his cloak here where it's been dragging in the dirt and the mud. And it's not going to be a huge change, but it'll be a little bit of tonal variation in there, so those little subtle tonal shifts eventually sort of pay off. I'll probably come back in here with something else and just kind of stipple a little bit of other browns on here at some point just to kind of reinforce this effect, but for now we'll just kind of leave it as is. All right. So now we go back to letting that dry. And what do we want to work on in the meantime? Don't need the wash anymore. We can put that away. Already have my colors out for the highlighting on the purple, which is essentially the bulk of what's left. And I think I've already got my blues on the palette. So realistically, we are pretty good to go. Let's move the dry palette out of the way. We're going to pop open the wet palette. Get the lid out of here because we don't need that. And we are going to funsies. We'll bring that onto camera shot a little bit. Too fancy here. All right. So we're going to need some more of this purple. Start with a blob of this. Just going to add it to the blob that's already there. And then we're going to give our brush a wee rinse. Grab our next shade. And give it a shake. It's a nice, like, dark purple gray, or gray purple. We have a much lighter, sort of lavendery gray purple. And a rinse. And then lastly, we have a light gray blue. This is our sort of pop color, highlight color. I've been using this on the last few models I've done in this army, especially the heroes, to really kind of push those highlights up into the next level. It would be really easy to just kind of keep climbing in purples and go lighter and lighter in purple, but I think adding that light blue, it gives it a slightly more atmospheric effect, for my money. I like to think that when you're trying to paint the highlights, essentially what you're trying to do is capture the light. And by using a light blue, you're giving it a cold light, as opposed to, you know, like trying to use like a beige or off-white or even like a pale yellow. Those would be if you wanted to like warm sun or something like that. So this is either like pale moonlight, or, you know, like my thinking is, you know, these guys are kind of from like, I mean, it's the realm of death. It's kind of cold and lifeless in general. And, you know, maybe like, I think originally when I envisioned this army, I wanted them to be like kind of, you know, undead from the frozen north. And so I wanted them to have like kind of that World of Warcraft Northrend Scourge vibe to them. So everything was in purples and dark silvers and cold golds, and using those blues and so forth. So I don't know, that's sort of the inspiration for the army, at least. Harkening back to my good old World of Warcraft days.
A damn fine cup of coffee.
Oh yeah, dude. You want to see? I don't think I mean, it's floated around on Instagram and Facebook a couple of times, but the main driving force was the leader of my army is Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, and so my goal was to paint the Zombie Dragon like Syndragosa. And then paint up the Vampire Lord to look like a Death Knight, and then all of the undead minions would be sort of at his command. So I'll have to pull him out at some point. He's not finished, not by a long shot, but I got kind of hung up on him because, like, I started painting him. And I got pretty far painting him, but I wasn't happy with the skin color on the Zombie Dragon. I had attempted to go for like a really dark gray, and my plan was that, like, I wanted it to be like it was a black dragon that was like an undead black dragon. So the life had been kind of drained out. It was cold. So I was going for that sort of like drained gray, you know, like when like black jeans fade to gray, or like anything black that sits out in the sun fades to gray. I wanted to try and capture that in the paint, but the grays that I chose were too warm, and it just threw off the look of the whole thing, to me at least, and it just wasn't what I was going for. So I kind of put him down for a while to try and figure out, like, all right, well, how can I fix it? What do I want to do that's going to sort of like reinvigorate painting this model for me? And yeah, kind of like the idea was, you know, like, again, like the skin was supposed to be black initially, but because it's undead, all of the life has been drained out of it, so that color is not going to be as strong. The color was going to be drained out of it, and I wanted it to be like it was in a cold environment, so I wanted to try and capture that coldness in the paint colors. And yeah, I got discouraged for sure, because it was like, well, maybe not even discouraged. Maybe discouraged isn't the right word, but I definitely like I hit a block, you know, where I just couldn't think of the color scheme that I wanted to go for. Like I nailed the wings. The wings look, mwah. I was super happy with those, and the Vampire Lord looks like a badass. I love the way that he came out, and I couldn't be happier with the way that that shaped up. But it was like specifically the skin on the dragon was the sticking point for me, and the more I looked at it, the more I hated it. And I was just trying to figure out what to do with it. And then I had like, I want to say it was like, yeah, exactly, writer's block. It was painter's block for sure, 100%. So I had kind of an epiphany, I think, at work. I had kind of put the idea down for a while and had moved on to other things mentally. And one day I was driving around at work, and it just like a bolt of lightning hit me. Instead of doing blacks and grays, because the grays, I'll show you. Unfortunately, I don't know how well the camera's going to pick them up, because cameras are cameras. But we are. So these were the two grays that I had initially. I should probably do this. These were the two grays that I had initially picked up. And as you can see on this one, it's got a lot of like brown tones in it. Like it's a really warm gray. And even this one here, the darker of the two, this is even still like a fairly warm gray as well. And so when I'm going for like an overall cold scheme, these just like clashed for me with that vibe, if you will. So what I decided to do, and I'll put these down here for reference, and the light is sort of like glaring off of it. So, but anyway, we'll come back to those for reference. But what I decided to do was use blue, specifically like blue gray, and then so this here would be like the darker shade, you know, basically like if we get these going kind of like this, right? Actually, why don't we do it this way? Come on, use those hands. So the darker shades here, like instead of this like brown gray, it was going to be this like dark blue gray, right? Still like it's still a color that black could turn, you know, like it depends on the black, because like you think about like tattoo ink, you know, like a lot of black tattoo ink over time fades to kind of like a bluish tint. Same thing with like, you know, there's all kinds of different like shades of black out there that will fade to blue depending on like the pigment, or depending on, you know, like what it's made out of and stuff like that. And then using something like this, you know, like lighter version of a gray blue here, there's a pretty good glare-free shot of the color. But using something like this for the highlights then, and maybe even like going as high as, you know, something like that for like some extreme highlights, or instead of straight this, mixing like 50-50 of like the two of these to bring this one a little bit higher up with this, so that it's still in the blue range. And yeah, so anyway, so that was basically where my thought process turned. So instead of using the warm grays that I was using before, I was going to switch over and use blue grays, and really punch up that sort of cold vibe, while still maintaining that sort of faded black gray, you know, overall feel or color, you know what I mean? I don't I don't know if that's translating. I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but I think hopefully you get the you get what I'm saying. All right. Still have some washes drying on this Wight King. So he is, you can see he's substantially darkened up from where he was when we started this. And you can see too, the bottom of the cloak is a little bit darker than the top. That's again, that dark brown wash that we put on the bottom of the cloak to sort of, you know, give the effect of dirt and grime and mud and whatever. And I'll probably be, like I said, reinforcing that a little bit with some glazes of different browns and stuff on there. In fact, I might even do, where are you? So, Games Workshop makes these technical paints that are, you can actually read that. It's not backwards. Anyway, they make technical paints. This one's called Typhus Corrosion. And it's actually got like a bit of a grit to it, and it comes out like a thin brown color. So this might be a decent thing to kind of like stipple on the very bottom edge of that cloak, just to kind of, you know, really give that dirty, muddy, shitty texture and look to it, like still wet, fresh mud. But yeah, so unfortunately we still have a little bit of waiting to go on this wash, so we're going to set him aside again. We're going to check on the bases for our Reapers here. Those actually look, that guy looks okay. That guy looks all right. So I think we can start doing a little bit of dry brushing on the bases on these. Which I also need to do dry brushing on the bases of my Black Knights, which are these mounted cavalry I was working on a few episodes ago. And so these guys were a ton of fun to work on. And I really like the way I tried a few new techniques on them here and there, or at least maybe they're not new techniques, not even necessarily even new to me. I just sort of revisited some stuff that I had given up on for a while because I wasn't any good at it, and I decided to really kind of hone in on it, which was basically just glazing in highlights and stuff like that on the purple robes and all that, trying to do a little bit more layering instead of like the official GW style, which is basically just edge highlight the crap out of everything regardless of what direction the light comes from, which drives me nuts. But anyway, so basically these guys, the bases have all been done up to the same point as these, where I washed, I put on the brown texture paint, and then I washed the bases brown. And so these all need to be dry brushed as well. And once they're dry brushed, then I can put some... Yes, see, that's exactly what I mean, Scotty, with the blue-gray. Like, it's definitely way more Northrindy Undead vibe, for sure. Yeah. And that's, like I said, that's 100% what I wanted to go for with this army. So it took a little bit of figuring on how I was going to pull it off, but I think we're there. Did you? I don't know if you saw the finished version of. Let's see if I can get him in camera here. The finished version of this Necromancer here. But this is one of the heroes for the army, and not super focusing here, but. Try and get him in there. There we go. That's not bad. But yeah, I used on like the stone and stuff like that, I used that super pale blue again as like the final highlight dry brush color on that, and I mixed it into all of those purples to add some like high highlights on the robes, so like where the light is like super catching. And I only put it on like, you know, this really sharp edges and like more extreme highlights. But I'm really, really pleased with how he came out. So, and I did him on the stream. I don't remember what episode it was, but going back away, the that was one of the projects I was working on for, I don't know, it was like one or two episodes I worked on him. I think I started him on stream and then did a little bit of work off camera and then came back and finished him on stream the next week. Anyway, we are gonna get some dry brushing done. We're also gonna take another swig of mead because it is delicious. Oh, that strawberry mead, though, guys. Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. It looks like my brother has joined the chat. What's up, Colin? Okay. So, we are going for... What are we going for? What was the color I was using for this? I don't remember the color I used on the other bases. One of these days, I will write this crap down. I'm pretty sure it was this. So this is what I'm going to go for. This will be close enough. Don't gotta be perfect, you know? Alright, so kind of scoot these guys over a little bit. Just gonna get this guy at an angle I can see. I'm just trying to hit the texture from the texture paint that I put down. We're not trying to paint everything. This is dry brushing, so we're just kind of tickling the top of it, flicking that brush back and forth. You saw oh geez, Butterfingers McGee over here. I wiped off most of the paint leading into this because that's how dry brushing works. In short, you put a little bit of paint on your brush. You want a dry brush, as the name would imply. And you put a little bit of paint on it, and then you scrub it into some paper towels so that the paint and the pigment gets distributed and deposited in amongst the bristles of the brush, but it's not like wet with paint. Once again, it's called dry brushing. And then you just lightly flick those bristles back and forth along the surface, and the pigment will catch on the raised bits of texture and leave the recesses untouched. And essentially, it's a great way to add some quick highlighting. So in this case, I am just trying to pick out the ground texture here. And if I don't do a really great job of getting it underneath the horse and rider, that's fine, because shadows exist. Not overly concerned about it. But at least get around it. That's good enough. Yeah, Scotty, Colin here is my my younger brother. Despite my best efforts, he was not a big WoW player. He was mostly into Final Fantasy Online, whatever the hell that game was called. 14. That was his game of choice. He had a couple characters that he played in World of Warcraft for a little bit, but I think he was even in our guild for a little bit, but he just kind of didn't stick around. Scotty and I go way back, Colin. All right, just doing a little scrubbing on the base here. Uh-oh, Colin. You exposed yourself as an alliance. Comes fighting words around here. Scotty and I roll deep with the Horde. Horde for life. That was actually one of the first guilds I was in that game. It was a guild called Horde for Life. It was run by this woman named Sandy, if memory serves. She was pretty awesome. No, Night Elf wasn't Horde. Are you thinking Blood Elf? Blood Elf had Paladin. Now that I think about it, I'm not even sure Night Elf had Paladin. Oop. Man, I'm just dropping things left, right, and center today, guys. I was really hoping that my daughter was going to take a nap earlier, because that was going to mean that I would get to take a nap also. And I like naps, especially when I'm up as early as I am and then stay up as late as I do on Friday nights. Oof. Boy, I tell you what, a nap would have been awesome. She was not in a napping mood. Which is not to say that she was in a particularly bad mood. She was actually just super rambunctious, jumping off the walls and going nuts. But it was one of those evenings or afternoons that was full of, don't touch that. Take that out of your mouth. Put that down. Get down from there. I'm still friends with Sandy on like Facebook and stuff, but I don't so much talk to her anymore. You know, like I'll pop in and like wish her happy birthday or whatever when her birthday rolls around and that kind of thing, but I haven't like actually like had like a real conversation with her in years. Realistically, I think that goes for pretty much most of the people that I used to game with. which is unfortunate. I think like you and I want to say like you and Onions are like the two people that I like still actually talk to on a semi-regular basis. It used to be more so with Onions. Like he and I stayed in touch pretty well. But I think something happened with his computer, and then like my computer started to shit the bed, and like because we would still like we'd get together every so often in like Discord or something like that, and then like jump into Diablo 3 and just like kill some time in some rifts there, just kind of screwing around. And but it was mostly just an opportunity for us to like hang out and talk and stuff like that. So at least for me it was. I see. I haven't logged into World of Warcraft. Oh goodness, I don't even remember the last time I was in that game. I think I popped in. I played through some of Warlords of Draenor. Was that an expansion? I think that was one of the expansions. And I got like a couple of characters up to max level, and then just never played again. As far as I was concerned, the game was dead at that point. Like nothing resembled the game that I remembered, and it just, I don't know, it just wasn't fun anymore. So that, and like most of the people that made it fun, like all the people that I used to play with, Diana, Onions, you, like there was just most of those people just weren't around, and I was just like, all right, it's just not the same. So like all my characters were still hanging out in Hellfire, that guild, and so like when I popped on, there was like a couple of faces I recognized, but not many. So it just wasn't there. Oh, I miss Ursel. Ursel was awesome. He was super cool. Shit, who was the other guy that I really liked? He was an older guy that was in that guild. I remember his character's name, and I'm trying desperately to remember his name. But he played a shaman named Sorb. Everyone called him T-Sorb because for whatever reason they couldn't pronounce the name. But Hearthstone was a good game too. I liked that one. Why can't I remember that guy's name? Was it Will? Bill. I think his name was Bill. Yeah, T-Sorb. Sorb. That guy. I think his name was Bill. Anyway, yeah, he was awesome. I remember having many a good conversation with him. He was if memory serves, I think he was a chiropractor in Arizona. Yes, that's him. Yep. We were friends on Facebook for a long time, and I think like Facebook buried him somewhere in like the algorithms of like friends that I see in my feed. So like I haven't even seen anything from him in ages, and for all I know, maybe he's not even on Facebook anymore. But I should look him up sometime and see if yeah, I'll have to look him up sometime. There was a bunch of cool people in that guild that I remember. But yeah, Ursel was awesome. I loved talking to him. He was great people. All right, let's get back to the main event here. We've managed to dry brush all those bases. I'm going to set those all aside. Yeah, that looks familiar. All right, we're going to set all these dudes aside. They're all essentially done. The only other step I have to add to all of these guys, the ghosts here, I need to black out the rims on all their bases. And then all of them, the knights and the ghosts alike, are all going to get some grass tufts on their bases just to tie everything nicely together, and then they are Dunsky. Ked. Okay, so getting back to this dude, we are going to... What are we going to work on? You know what? Let's work on some of the details of the stuff, sort of like around his armor. So like the keys, his little belt, the little vial at his waist. I don't know if you can see that little purple vial there. That's going to be changing color. That's going blue. Because the bright blue is sort of the spot color for this army. And so I'm going to be doing that. There's a little gemstone on his crown that I'm going to pick out in the same blue. His eyes are going to be glowing blue. And I think that's it on this guy that's going to be blue. But yeah, that all sounds pretty good. And then I need to pick out and reinforce the gold in the new gold color. And I think that is it. All right. So back to the wet palette. And we're going to get a wee brush here. Small. All right. And we're going to do is this brown. So this is, once again, talking about like warm and cold colors and stuff like that. This is a brown that is a little more desaturated. It almost looks like it's got a little bit of gray in it, just a hint. But it's, I would consider it personally like a colder brown when compared to some of the other browns that I have. I don't know if brown can ever truly be considered cold, but anyway, I'm going to use this to paint in some of the leather straps. Just going to fill these in. I'll probably take a couple of coats because I'm applying this pretty thin. And you know what? We're even gonna, the wrappings on the hilt, or the handle. Yeah, that's the hilt, right? I don't know, my sword terminology is not what it used to be. But we're gonna change this from that sort of like purpley color. The reason I had that in that purpley color is because I had the vial here in the same purpley color, and I didn't want to have just like a random splash of that color and not have it tied in somewhere else on the model. So if I'm getting rid of this one, then that's going to mean that this is the only like instance of that color on the model. And since it's not like the pop color in my army, it's just like another random color. That doesn't work for me anymore. So we're just going to paint it another color. That's the thing with paint, especially if you're applying it nice and thin. If you change your mind on a color or you don't like the way that something comes out, you can just repaint it. and it's not like a big deal. That's something I constantly remind myself because I still get like intimidated and nervous when it comes to painting certain models, especially like if it's like a big centerpiece for an army, and like, you know, my zombie dragon, for instance, like I tiptoed around painting that thing for I don't even know how long. So, but yeah, so we'll come back. We'll throw another coat on that momentarily. We're gonna go right back into that color. I'm gonna pick out this strap on his shield. Generally speaking, when it comes to a lot of the sort of like color theory and color, like composition, there we go, that's the word I'm looking for. When it comes to like composition of a model, in general, if you only have like a color that shows up like one place on the model, then it looks really heavy in that area, and in order to balance, you want to sort of like spread things out, and they often talk about like painting in triangles. So like, you know, you have all of the colors going in like some sort of like, you know, triangle around the model. So in this case, we've got the brown strap on the shield strap here, and we've got the brown coming down. We've got the brown on his this little leather strap around his waist. And then again, around on this hand, we have the wrappings on the sword handle in the same brown. So that forms like, you know, a nice little triangle between those 3 points, and it spreads that color out and makes it look a little bit more, I don't know, at home, as opposed to like just sort of sticking out like a sore thumb. Well, we're just gonna make this part black. There's like a little handle on this shield that he's holding with his little skeleton fingies, and I couldn't quite figure out what color I wanted to paint it. The back of the shield itself was painted black, so I'm just going to paint the handle black, and we'll highlight it so that it stands out a little bit. But I'm not... It doesn't necessarily need to be like a fancy color. I could have gone for like metal and just made it like a, you know, like a metal handle or something, but who knows? Maybe I'll still go back and do that. And actually, I'm noticing there's another bit of leather on here. Another leather strap on his chest right here, which seems to connect to the scabbard of his sword hanging at his waist, and also connects to the belt here that I had previously painted. We're going to kind of throw that second coat on some of this stuff. Gotta go. All right, brother. Have a good one. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out. I appreciate it. Good talking to you, man. Have a good week. Probably should have done this part before I did all the washes. I don't know why I didn't. It would have made sense, because realistically this could have benefited from at least the brown wash. Probably the black one as well, but that might have been a little too much. But anyway. Now we've got all his little strappy straps painted brown. We're going to hit that sword handle one more time now that that looks dry. Now, one of the things I'm sort of kicking myself on this guy is that I assembled him entirely before I started painting him. Realistically, in order to paint this guy to sort of the level that I would like to, because A, he's a really cool model, and B, he's a hero in my army, and I like to really sort of up the level on the heroes. But it's hard to reach a lot of the areas on this guy because of his cloak, and because he is like entirely assembled. So if I had left him in pieces, painted him, and then glued him together after the fact, I think that probably would have led to a cleaner paint job ultimately. But oh well, that's fine. All right. So the browns are done. We are moving over to the purples. We're going to work on this cape. What time is it? Oh man. Really should have done those washes before this stream started, because that ate up a lot of time. Like a lot of time. All right, so this dark purple, this was the original color that I base coated basically all of the purple, all of the cloth on this guy. So we're going back into that original color, which is now, if you look compared to where we're at now for the color, I don't even, well, there's so much glare you can't even really tell. But anyway, it's substantially brighter than where this cloak is now, because this has had a black and a brown wash added to it. So we're going to start back with this color, and this is going to be our first highlight color. Now what I'm going to do is essentially I'm going to look at this model top down and look at all of the areas that I can see that are purple, and basically all of that stuff is going to get painted this color. And the idea is, by looking at it from above, we are essentially giving it like a zenithal paint job. So we are, as if light is coming down. There's the camera here. As if light is coming down at the top of this model, we want all of the brighter areas to be facing upwards, where that light is going to actually hit it. And then on the sharp edges, that's where like the extreme highlights are going to end up, where I'm going to be mixing in this bright blue into the highlights and picking out just like those sharp corners and edges. Another thing I like about using the blue on those edges is, because this is supposed to be like a cold environment, right on those frayed edges and stuff like that, maybe the robe has some ice crystals that are forming, and so the blue, I like to think, sort of signifies some of that. Anyway, so going back to the purple, we want fairly thin consistency here. We're not quite glazing, but we're just applying real thin layers. And we're dabbing off any of the excess on our paper towel because we don't want to flood this. But we're going to come in and basically add some layers on. So this is all pretty apparent right up here. Down over the shoulder here. Then we're gonna much more water here. So there's some prominent folds in this cloth, so we're gonna follow those folds all the way down just to highlight and reinforce those on the sort of the upper angles of those. And we're going to leave, even on like sort of the upward facing points, we are going to leave like the deepest recesses as this, you know, super dark color, because we do want to have some decent definition. Right. So far, we're looking pretty good. We're also trying to paint in the direction of the fabric so that the paint is being sort of like pushed and pulled along with the sculpt. We're going to kind of go in and feather out some of that purple on the edges there. Maybe grab a little bit more of that purple paint, thin it down just a touch more, so that it's almost a glaze, and we're just going to kind of feather that in. Try and get somewhat of a decent blend going here. And a bit stronger of a purple. We're going to light that fold. That fold. Yeah, that's looking pretty. There's a little bit of a fold here that we want to get. I'm way off camera here. My goodness, I'm sorry, guys. All right. Just reinforcing some of these blocks of color. All right. Now you can see if I hold this up like so, you can see now the difference between that dark purple and the dark purple, right? Like you can see where that shift is in the colors. We'll hold it like this so that again you can see where that blend is between the you know, the really dark shaded parts of the cloak and then where the folds and the upper parts up like along his back here. Now we're gonna do this part that's like billowing in the wind, and we're basically going to touch this the same way, which means most of this is going to get this same color treatment. So we're going to come along the top here like 100%, and then we're going to dip into this a little bit here. We're going to come up to there and probably end like right about there. And then the underside here is going to stay nice and dark. I'm not really going to add too much to that. I might add like a little bit of like the dark highlight here. And this is probably going to be like the highest highlight that the underneath is going to receive. And I'm thinking, you know, like underneath here on this little bit of billow and fold. And essentially this would be like light that's bouncing back and up. So this is like reflected light that's coming up and then hitting the underside of some of this. But yeah, this is the game plan. We're just going to carry on doing this for a little bit. Brush a quick rinse. Yeah, the camera is tiltable, but it's like tends to just wander. I need to get at some point a better setup, something that's a little bit better of an angle. Honestly, what I'd like to get is the camera like sort of like up over my head, maybe. I don't know like 100% yet where I want to try and put it, but just something that gets a better angle, because I unfortunately, with the light being where it is and the camera being where it is, when I'm trying to like get in and see something, I have a tendency to like pull it close to me, which immediately pulls it right out of the camera shot and kind of defeats the purpose of having this downward camera. So I'm trying. It's not a perfect science yet, but there are people. I watch enough streams of other painters and stuff, and I mean, they all end up doing basically the same kind of thing. Just sort of inadvertently wandering off the reservation a little bit. All right, so we are reinforcing this purple, which is on camera. All right. All right, so it's still drying, and so it's a little bit shiny, but I think you can see, maybe hold it up a little bit more like so. You can see some of the color variation again. You got a little dark spot in here where it's in shadow. If we look at it from, you know, the sort of above angle like this. So all of the upward facing areas down like back into the shadow here where it sort of disappears under the shadow of the shield. All this is picked out in this purple, and it just kind of fades and feathers out into the this other dark shaded purple, and that sets our shadows and our highlights pretty well, I think. You know, I guess I'm not a super expert in this, but you know, by my reckoning, I think that's what I'm doing, and I think it's coming out okay. Realistically, that's good enough. Now, the silly bit is that I added that extra brown dirtiness on the bottom, and now I'm going back over and highlighting some of that so that you lose that sort of dirtiness. So I suppose I will end up going back in and adding some grime on top, which probably makes more sense in this regard, because I don't know, you want to get those highlights and then tint everything in that sort of brownish direction once it's ready. We're making sure too to put this purple on When I say thick, I mean not in the coat, but in the width of like the highlights. I want this to be sort of like a nice wide, a wide highlight, and then as the colors get brighter and lighter, the highlight width will shrink appropriately, and that's, you know, as the highlights get finer, as it gets to like the edges and the sharper bits. So, but I think this particular step is just about done. So now what we're going to do is put the wet palette in so you can see a bit better. We are going to wet our large brush here. And we're going to pull a good chunk of this dark purple down. And we're going to go into this color and we're going to pull a bunch of that up. We're going to just kind of mix us a color somewhere in the middle. And that will serve as our next highlight color. Mix some water in there to thin it down. Blot off the excess. Slide this over. Space is at a premium on this desk, I have noticed. Alright, so this color we're going to be putting up on his shoulders here. Dilute that a little bit more. We're going to run this on those creases. Kind of trying to push the pigment in the direction we want it. So we want the brightest bit up at the top, so we're pushing the paint up towards the top. And with this real thin paint, the more layers you put on in a given area, the more opaque it becomes. So, why I keep going back into the same sort of general areas and adding just that little bit extra. let that dry because I'm noticing in one spot in particular I keep peeling up some of the thin layers of paint, which is obviously not ideal. So but again, we can see how those highlights are shaping up, giving a little bit more definition and flow to the overall piece. And we're just going to kind of continue this, getting brighter and brighter as we go. I'm going to take a little bit of that dark purple and just like right up underneath this fur, just kind of poke that up and make like a, I don't know, just a little bit of separation where there's shadow from the fur kind of coming down. We're going to grab a little bit of black on there. Just really thin it down. Dab off the excess. Really drive that up. All right. There we go. So we're doing all right. So we're going to switch over to the front. We're going to grab our thin sort of, I don't know, I guess it's a mid-tone, but so we're being a little bit more selective in where we put this, but we're covering most of that previous coat with this. But we're just not going quite as far into some of the dips and recesses. Like where the shield is, I'm not going all the way in where I did with that last purple. We're keeping it to sort of the even more upper areas. That's a thing. So we've got this swoop going on here. Pick that out nicely. All right. See that bright purple, the underside. The full effect here on the front, not so great, but we're trying. We're heading in the right direction, at least. Re-picking out some of these folds. And bringing those, punching those up a little bit, as it were. All right, rinse. that paint out of there. Well, all right, brother. You have yourself a good one. Take it easy. All right. And it's just sort of occurring to me now that I'm looking at this that I completely skipped over the bit of purple in here around his cowl and any purple showing in the sort of under robe, if you will. But ultimately, I like where this is headed. I like the way it's shaping up. I was hoping to get this guy finished on the stream, but those washes just took so long to dry that we didn't really get there. So I kind of overestimated the amount of stuff we'd be able to get to today. So unfortunately, we won't be seeing this guy finished tonight. That being said, it is 11 o'clock right now, which means it is time to call this stream done. I'm almost a little tempted to just kind of keep going for a little bit, but basically just going to be me pushing colors around until they kind of get where I'm happy with it. But you know, like I said, we're definitely headed in a direction I'm into here. I like where this is going. I like this a lot. Yeah, I'm just sitting here pushing these colors around like a nutty person. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so let's put this on hold. We're gonna pause this. We're gonna slap a cover on our palette for the time being. So we'll see what I can get done on this guy throughout the course of the week. I might keep going on him for a little bit tonight, just since I'm already kind of, you know, in the groove, as it were. But you know, for now, we're just going to kind of switch over here, and we're going to go ahead and wrap things up for the stream tonight. So I want to thank everybody for watching, obviously, and for those that were hanging out in the chat and you know, keeping me entertained and keeping me company. I appreciate it. So yeah, again, I've been Wes. I'm here every Friday streaming hobby stuff. Usually, like I said, mini painting, terrain building, painting, model building, all that fun stuff. You can find me here 9 p.m. Fridays, and once the stream is done, it's a 2-hour stream. So once 11 o'clock hits and I wind it on down, the stream goes up live onto YouTube. So if you missed any of it, or for whatever reason can't get your fix and you want to check it out again or what have you, the VODs will be available late Saturday night, or I'm sorry, late Friday night into Saturday. So they'll definitely be up as of Saturday morning. So anyway, all that being said, follow me on Instagram at Wes Odinson, WESODINSON. You can also find me at Twitter at Wes Odinson, and the YouTube channel, which there's a link for in the chat, should be pinned up over there. I'll link to all the socials and whatnot. But the YouTube channel is youtube.com/users/Wes Odinson, and go ahead over there, hit subscribe, and that way you'll get updated when new stuff comes out. So either these VODs, or once I start any of my other content that I plan on, then all that stuff will be pinging up like crazy when that comes out. So I want to once again thank everybody, reinforce the happy Juneteenth, happy Midsummer, and happy Father's Day to all that those apply to. I also continue fighting the good fight out there, and keep the conversation going. Black Lives Matter, and it's important that we get this. Well, that we keep this ball rolling, I guess, since we actually, there seems to be some progress being made already, and if we keep at it collectively, it will continue to get better. But anyway, that's enough of that for now, I guess. So yeah, until next week, guys, take good care of yourselves and be well. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you next Friday. Peace.